So y'all talked out?
Not yet.
No.
Hopefully.
Wanted to you covered a lot of stuff last night about kind of the character and your mindset going into this. I wanted to ask you about some of the physicality of the character, particularly like the handling of guns and things like that, and how much training did you get? Much training time to do that, or even like the fighting choreography and whatnot? Like how much went into that?
Yeah, I mean that was a big part of the process, and we made sure that we had as much time as we could. It's an independent film, I think Henry Cavill gets 6 months for Superman. We had about 6 weeks. But you can get a lot done in that time. And I worked very, very hard. And, there was a big nutritional shift for me, just eating a lot of protein every 2 hours, which got quite boring after a while. But also, hitting the gym hard with a guy who was pushing me through pain barriers I didn't even know existed. And then in the afternoon, the martial arts, which... I found particularly the discipline required for that kind of stuff. It's almost like a form of choreography, it's a form of dance, really, and very, very good for the psychology of the character as much as the physicality and the aesthetic. At lunchtime we go down the gun range and stand alongside members of the public firing off their weapons down by LAX, and and then we went out into the desert and got on with it. So. It was, a lot of very unfamiliar stuff for me in this, but really fascinating getting my head around all that.
Did you learn a little bit about yourself, like when you started using guns? Because people don't realize, like when you see it in movies, everybody sees people using guns in movies, but when you fire a real gun, I mean, there's such a power that comes with that, and it really kind of teaches you about how you personally can handle that. Did you learn anything like
and I mean, even firing something like, obviously you have these blanks, and they have sort of quarter rounds, half rounds, depending on what, the look that they want to get. And sometimes it's a full round, which has pretty much the same kickback as a real, live round would. And that in itself was, it was quite a shock to me at first. And you have to, for the sake of the camera, get over that kind of, the very British response to a gun going off, and try and keep your cool. So that's as much part of the practice as actually handling the thing. And as an actor, you always, especially if you're taking on a role like this, you want to look and feel as authentic as you can. I mean, in that short time, I know that's not always possible, but we had a few good guys looking in on things, physically, how we hold the weapons and, how you load them, and, really trying to, I would love somebody who had a military background to watch this and think that it wasn't too bad,
So people have said the words about you possibly being the new James Bond. Can you indulge us and do Bond James Bond for us? Just so we can hear how you do it?
I need to rehearse for at least 6 months.
We'll wait.
No, I think David in The Guest could give him a run for his money, Well,
I want to ask you something. I asked Daniel Craig before he became James Bond, because I met Daniel Craig when he did Layer Cake.
Okay.
Is it nerve-wracking to think that playing a character like that and what the pressures and the things that come with that, is it something you would want to do? Is it something that you think you could see yourself doing and still be able to have a family life and have your own somewhat anonymity? Because I think he kind of gave a lot of that up.
Did you really ask him all these questions?
I did ask him all the questions.
And what did he say?
At the time,
he's like, no, I'd never do it.
Yeah, it's exactly what he did. He said, I did not want to do this because I would give up all my anonymity, and then like a week later he got signed to be James Bond.
That's hilarious. Well, I'm going to say exactly the same thing.
Because then you'll be James Bond.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll see what happens. What Daniel Craig said. There you go.
Did you? Sorry, go
No, I was just, the other thing I wanted to ask you was, like, in the scenes, like, when, talking about the kind of the comedy that comes out of this, and, like, the scene, like, when they show you in the window, you just have that dead-eyed stare.
Yeah.
Were there certain influences that you drew upon, where, like, were there other characters from films and things that maybe you wanted to say, like, that guy has exactly the same quality I want to bring to this character?
Yeah, there were a few. I mean, for that specific scene, I'm not sure exactly, but I know that obviously, Kurt Russell was a big influence in terms of the fun that he's having up on screen in those movies. Yeah. Uma Thurman in Kill Bill. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to cite Uma as an influence, but there she is. But also, there's a great British film from the 60s called If. ... by Lindsay Anderson, which was Malcolm McDowell's first movie, and I saw that movie way too young. I think it was like 11 or something, which when you see the movie you'll realise perhaps why you shouldn't watch that. And I was going to a school that was a little bit like the school in that movie, and it put all sorts of terrible ideas in my head.
That's a cool flick.
But it is an amazing film, and very interesting film to come out of Britain, especially at that time. And it was probably the closest we got at that time to a sort of a weird, twisted action comedy. But there's something about the kind of beautiful anarchy of that movie, and particularly Malcolm McDowell's performance in that. This sort of it's just a graceful cool about it that really just sort of delighted in the weirdness of it. That I found mesmerizing as a young actor growing up, and I guess there's always an element of that in a few things I've done, but particularly in this, I was able to sort of indulge that a bit more.
Yeah.
But there's a number of for all of us really, a number of influences that fed into this. Adam made me go and sit down and watch Terminators 1 and 2 back to back, which I'd never done. I'd seen them both, but never back to back, which is an experience I recommend highly. So that had an influence too, I guess.
Projects you want to talk about?
I guess, yeah. We've got.
You're so great in this. I want to see more.
Thanks. Yeah. Walk Among the Tombstones is Scott Frank's new movie with Liam Neeson. That's coming out on the 19th, which is a sort of hard-boiled noirish thriller. And then at Christmas we have Night in the Museum playing Sir Lancelot, which is much sillier than the other two. But like I said, it's sort of action comedy for me. And an amazing sort of world to step into that, and something that my kids will be able to see before they see The Guest, maybe. Yeah, although I'm sure they'll see it way too young. Yeah.
You also have a movie coming out. I think is it called The Ticket, or where you play a blind man that regains his sight?
Blind man who regains his sight. We've literally just wrapped on that. We shot that over the summer, and it was.
Sounds like a really interesting concept.
It is an amazing director as well, Ido Fluke. He's been living in Williamsburg for about 8 years, an Israeli director. His first English language feature. And it was one of the most beautiful scripts I'd ever read, and I met him about a year and a half ago, and we talked, and never quite dreamed it would come together, but we managed to put it together this summer, and very, very intense experience, and I look forward to seeing what comes of that. Yeah.